the Concert Pipeline. I'm Steve Jones. Today on the program, we have John Craigie, a singer-songwriter who is really amazing. He has such great talent and his voice is incredible. I really have dug his music as I started to listen to him preparing for our chat and really gotten into him. And he's going to be playing at Fillmore. Actually, you know what? He's playing at the Fillmore, I think, tonight of this taping. So he just played at the Fillmore here in San Francisco, and I'm sure he rocked it out of the park. It was, I'm sure, an amazing show, and I wish I could have gone. But anyway, John is on the program today, so we had a great chat. We got to talk about his new album that came out last year, Asterisk the Universe. We went deep on some other stuff as well, including his tour with Jack Johnson, a couple of covers albums that he's put out, which really I dig his covers, and I talk about that as well. But really check out his covers albums. They're really unique and incredible. So we'll get to John in just a moment. Before we do, though, I will let you all know what is on my mind right now, what I've been up to. If you've tuned into a podcast or program recently, you know that duck hunting season has started, and that's a big focus of mine, which is why we didn't have an episode last week. So they might be a little bit scattered over the next couple of months as I'm splitting focus between this program and duck hunting and balancing time with my kids and everything else going on in life, right? So apologies for that. Also, the holidays are a slower time for concerts generally anyway. I don't know what's, up and down in this particular time right now, but I'll tell you, I got out duck hunting on Wednesday and had a really great hunt, probably my best hunt I've had yet. I brought home a full strap of birds, 7 ducks, which is a limit. I did have a little bit of assistance from my buddies in closing out my limit to bring home the 7 ducks. 6 were spoonies, which those go straight in the freezer for duck sausage at the end of season. But I love that. I love making duck sausage with my buddies. It's one of the highlights of the season for me, and so saving up a bunch of meat to contribute to that passion is it's enjoyable. But we went out to Sacramento, and I had a reservation, so my 2 buddies came along with me. We were really excited about the possibility at first, but when we got to the refuge, we looked at the numbers from last week, and it was bleak. There were not a lot of birds taken out of the refuge, and so we didn't have a lot of high hopes. And my reservation was actually ended up being the last reservation on the refuge, which also we weren't too excited about, but the spot that we got, we were hopeful for, right? And I may have buried the lead a little bit in saying that I walked out with the full strap, but there were a lot of birds that came into our pond, and we had a pit blind, which we 3 guys in in these holes under a pit, ultimately shooting birds as they came in, and it was just so much fun. We all got a limit. One of my buddies also brought home a goose, which he's excited to make a goose pastrami. And we had a really great day out. There was no wind or no rain, no real weather to speak of, and it's the beginning of November. So for all intents and purposes, we shouldn't have been bringing home many birds, but we did better than anybody else on the refuge from what they told us. So pretty exciting day. And I had toyed with going out this weekend, going duck hunting again, and I didn't really have a great reason not to, except daylight savings and being just tired and needing to catch up on a little bit of sleep and wanting to just relax a little bit. I have a couple of big hunts coming up, which I'll be going back to Sacramento and beyond for a couple of hunts. So I'm trying not to overdo it when I know that ducks won't be ever present in the area. So I'm looking forward to the hunts that I have coming up though. So that's what I got going on there. What else is going on? Okay. kids 5 to 11 can now get vaccinated. So that's really exciting for me because I'm going to be getting my kids vaccinated, and do my part to help battle this beast that we're up against. It's a pretty exciting thing. So really looking forward to that. I don't have a lot of other crazy stuff that's been going on right now. Just outside of normal kid stuff, my kids got to play with with a friend today and hang out. So that was pretty fun. I'll tell you, I do miss concerts a bit. I still haven't gone to many. I've gone to a couple since things have opened back up. I probably should have pushed to go to John Craigie tonight, but the idea was in my head that I was going to go hunting, and when you go hunting, you get up at like 2 and get out the door by that, around then, and a concert and duck hunting, not a good combination in terms of getting any amount of sleep. So I didn't push to go to the show or anything along those lines. But I miss concerts a lot, and going to a show at the Fillmore would have been incredible as well. We've had a bunch of artists on recently that have played the Fillmore, and I always try and take the time to talk to them about their experience there. It's this venue that really means a lot to me, and there's just so much history there, and everybody has a great experience there. It's just such an incredible place. So I hope to get to a show there in the coming months. Looking forward to taking my kids on a trip, spring break. I know that's 6 months away at this point, but it's what I have to look forward to. Taking them down south to San Diego and just getting away for a week or so. Should be a lot of fun. And yeah, those are kind of the big things in my life right now. So I'll keep this opening, pretty short. And let's go ahead and let's bring in John Craigie and talk about his life in music. Cool. Yeah. Well, John, thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. So let's start out by telling me, how are you doing? How have the past couple of years been for you? It's been a crazy climate for everybody, obviously, right now. But for a musician, especially, who's used to touring and living life on the road, like, what's that been like for you?
Yeah, obviously I wasn't touring for a while there, and it's just now coming back. So it's really interesting to be trying to navigate the new waters post-COVID, or I guess mid-COVID, or on whatever you call it. I'm not sure what the term is for this stage.
Wherever we are right now, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What have the shows been like that you've had at this point recently? What has it been like for you to get back on stage?
It's been really cool. It's been a little anxiety ridden, the touring, just because I don't want to have anything canceled on my part. So I haven't been as social on the tours, or as interactive on the tours. I'm not going to the merch table. I'm not seeing friends after the shows, which is fine. It's just those were some of my favorite parts of the touring.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you changed your live show at all to kind of accommodate, the changes in dynamic in the world?
I think I just mostly am trying to talk about it on stage and find some humor in it, but then also try to find those moments of tension that hopefully can be relieved through music and everything coming together. Yeah.
Now, I want to ask you, kind of starting back in your childhood, like, what music did you listen to as a kid? What did your parents have on in the house when you were growing up?
That's a good question. It was very random for me as a child, because my parents were pretty square, so music was not something that they were bringing to the table as much. My dad was working a lot; it wasn't around as much. Mom was also working a lot, so my musical influence initially came from my older sister, who was 5 years older and hip, and sort of a late '80s, early '90s girl, and so my earliest memories of music are things like that, like The Cure and Depeche Mode, Violent Femmes, Smiths, Oingo Boingo, all of that sort of stuff, which I really liked, at the time. And then she started bringing in things like U2 and sort of these early '90s late 80s acts that were more like rock based or song based, I guess, not to put a lot of focus on YouTube, but I remember that was a significant change. Or REM was another one that I remember thinking it was its own genre that was kind of transferring me into the 90s. And then by the time I was about 10 or 11, when kids start kind of finding their own, that's when Nirvana, Pearl Jam, that movement was coming through, which I was really into. And it wasn't until grunge was big, and as was like Guns N' Roses and other like heavier or like mildly heavy rock at that time. But then around high school, I started to venture out into we had the internet, and I started to learn more about the Beatles and Dylan and Joni Mitchell, which was really cool. So the songwriter stuff started coming in later. Also, people like Jewel and Jack Johnson were coming on the scene, which was like kind of a different wave of songwriter based music. So that was a big influence on me as well. Not to over answer your question, but yeah.
No, it's perfect. Yeah. And so your sister being a big influence, did she like take you to your first concert, or she did?
She did. Yeah, actually it was called the Horde Festival. It was a Blues Traveler day, where it was Blues Traveler, Dave Matthews Band, Rusted Root. Oh, nice. Where is that?
That's here in Napa, actually.
Cool.
Yeah, I've met John Popper a couple of times, so I got him to sign that. So
that's awesome. Yeah. They were great, and this was kind of the peak of this is like late 90s, so peak Blues Traveler. And it was somewhere like Irvine Meadows. It was a big venue, like a huge outdoor, like open field. So yeah, Lenny Kravitz, Rusted Root, Dave Matthews, Blues Travelers, Leftover Salmon on a side stage. It was a great whole day experience, and I loved it.
That's all your first concert, like?
Yeah, it was amazing, mind blowing.
That's incredible. Did you have a favorite out of those bands that someone you really wanted to see that you were like blown away by?
I think what was cool is Dave Matthews was not that big at that time, or pretty unknown. They actually were not. I think they were like second up. Lenny Kravitz was headlining, ahead of them. But they had an amazing set. Say what you will about Dave Matthews now. At that time, it was pretty hot, and I was very impressed by it. I also had not heard that kind of music, coming out of more mainstream stuff that I was listening to.
Yeah. This
was like, a lot of stuff off that first Dave Matthews record. So that was pretty. I think that was my takeaway of best act that day.
And was there a concert or a period of time that you're like, okay, made you want to be a live performer, like beyond just writing songs and making music?
Yeah, always. I mean, that predates from the first time I heard music. I wanted that, but it wasn't until I started seeing guys like me. I remember going to an Arlo Guthrie concert early on, maybe when I was 18 or 19 in Santa Cruz. That was a big influence on me because that made it seem more doable. When I would go see Pearl Jam or, these, I saw like Dylan, I saw Paul Simon as a kid, but these seemed very, these were like, genius like level, rock star level. Nothing against Arlo Guthrie, but that was just a dude singing and playing guitar, which was really extra inspiring for me because that was something that I could do, I thought.
Yeah. So it was Santa Cruz where you started going to concerts and everything.
That's where I went to college, and that's when I really started getting more into music became a lot more happening for me. Yeah.
Was it shows at like the Catalyst and other places?
Yeah, Catalyst for sure. That particular Guthrie show was at the Rio. I think I was going to more Rio shows at the beginning because Catalyst was usually 21 and over. So I started off doing a lot of Rio and a lot of Santa Cruz, Ugly Mug. Santa Cruz had a lot of little places that I would see shows at. But definitely tons of Catalyst. I saw some great bands at the Catalyst. And then of course like Santa Cruz Civic, I saw Dylan there. I saw Ani DeFranco. I saw some pretty amazing bands coming through there too. And then up to Shoreline, tons of stuff at Shoreline.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Neil Young, a bunch. Yeah.
Oh, British School Benefit, of course.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that was during the time. Yeah.
I went to the last British School benefit concert. I mean, I don't think it was intended to be the last, but I think it ended up being the last. With Metallica played. Trying to remember who else, but Metallica was the big one that it played, and it was pretty awesome. So
Cool.
I'd always wanted to go to one, and that was the only one I ever made it to. But like growing up in the Bay Area, it was always too steep for my blood, sort of thing, too rich,
Yeah. Yes.
of a ticket. But I'm glad I made it out to one because what an epic show it was. So
yeah.
I'm just going to keep nerding out with you about Bay Area concerts because
Nerd it, man. Yeah.
You're playing the Fillmore, I believe, right?
Yeah,
In just like a week and a half.
November 13th. Yeah.
Have you played the Fillmore before?
Just as an opener. I've never done my own show there. Let's see. I opened for Gregory Alan Isaacoff, ALO, and then I used to play that Poster Room when I was a lot younger.
Oh yeah,
which is a fun
upstairs.
little gig. Yeah. But this will be my first headlining film.
Oh, I bet you're pretty excited about that, huh?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. What memories do you have of either going to shows at the Fillmore or playing there? Like, what was that experience like for you? That's my favorite venue, so I always love to talk to bands about the Fillmore.
Yeah, I was a huge nerd as a kid, so I had I knew all about the Fillmore because of like my research on Haight-Ashbury and stuff like that. So I can't tell you the first. Maybe it was Sound Tribe Sector 9 was the first band I saw at the Fillmore.
Uh-huh.
During my Santa Cruz days, I got up there for something, but I saw so many good acts play there. Sean Hayes, Nikki Bloom, ALO, Gregory Isaacoff. Beautiful. And then the times that I got to play too, really magical place, obviously with the history and the way the venue runs itself is really fun too. They know their place in San Francisco, sort of legends. So.
Oh yeah, I mean everything about that venue and the posters on the wall you can get lost in. I mean the apples are incredible. I don't know. There's some magic in those apples. I don't know what it is, but but it's great. Let's go back to Santa Cruz for a second. Tell me a little bit about Pond Rock.
Yeah, Pond Rock was my I guess you could say it was my first experience with like the music world, the music business, and it was a band that I was in my college days, and we were a jam band, which was really hot at the time. A lot of covers, a lot of instrumentals, a lot of jams. The thing about us, we didn't really have a soloist amongst us, which was, I thought, not good. But great guys.
Someone's got to take lead.
Yeah, nobody really was like if you're gonna have a jam band, someone's got to fucking know how to play an instrument, But really, really good dudes and really good songwriters. All four of us. Not myself at the time. I was not writing great stuff, but we were all writing. And my drummer, my bass player, my keyboardist, all were cool, really good writers. And so I think we had some songs, which was something that was a little different than some of the other jam bands in Santa Cruz. And so during the peak time, it was fun. We would do a lot of house shows, a lot of, there was like Rosie McCann's was a big gig. I don't know if you know that spot. It's on Pacific.
Yeah.
There was a place called Java House at the time, which was on the other end of Pacific. Did some Catalyst shows, did some Moe's Alley shows, So that was it was a good experience for me to kind of get into the vein of performing live and booking shows and mini tours and making merch and having set lists. It was a really good experience for that. But I was out of my element as far as my own talents, and it didn't take me too long to realize that I'd be stronger in this world as a songwriter.
Yeah. What would you say was the biggest thing you took away from that experience that you were able to apply to your later music?
I think honestly was a lot of the touring, show booking aspects of it that I think, when I was a kid, and I don't know what kids think now, but when I was a kid, I really thought that in order to be a musician, you needed some, sort of voice on high, some representative of the music business to sort of like acknowledge you and give you the powers to do this. Because when I was a kid, of course, every band I saw was at a giant club, in Los Angeles. And so I didn't realize that you could just fucking do it. You know what I mean? Like just do it. And so that I learned that through those guys. That we did a couple tours. I would just call a venue, say, "Can we play?" They'd say no. I'd say cool. And then sometimes I'd say, "Where can we play?" And they'd say, "Hey, try this place," and that place would let me play. And then you play there, and then you make your fans, and you slowly walk up. And I think I just didn't. Nobody ever told me that, so that was a huge inspirational thing for me to realize that, oh, I don't need to wait around for some label to sign me or some larger artist to take me under their wing. I'll just fucking go play, see what happens. That's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before we get into some of the music specifically, I want to ask about a couple more shows. Tell me about Burning Man.
Yeah. I haven't gone in a few years, but that used to be a mainstay for me. And that was a crazy place to play early on when I wasn't on the radar of many festivals. Burning Man was an easy festival to kind of DIY your own set at. And so for years, I was getting some good exposure through that. But to be honest, that it's a crazy place where there's no rules. And so after a while, I had to kind of step away just because the shows themselves could be, you never knew what was going to happen. The system could not work. A dust storm, a parade of naked Santa Clauses could be coming through your show anytime in the middle of your poignant lyrics. So
did that happen, or
that definitely happened? Yes.
Okay.
That happened. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And also Red Rocks. Like,
Oh,
I mean, yeah. Tell me about that. Like, for a long time, I talked to bands, and Red Rocks was a place that came up, and
Yeah.
the term like magical was something that they describe it as, right? And so I eventually, a couple of years ago, right before COVID, actually, I had to, I was like, I got to go to Red Rocks. I got to see, this is all about. Yeah. Went and saw Weird Al in this, Colorado Symphony at Red Rocks.
Wow, what a show!
I know, right? So it was pretty epic. So tell me about your experience.
Yeah, it's funny, it is one of those weird things where if you ask a musician sort of dream venue or dream gig, 9 out of 10 say that. And so I was aware of that. I'm not a dream gig kind of guy. I'm just happy to have any show where people listen. So I never put too much weight on that, but I was excited to play it. My friend Andy Frasco, he had me open, which was a huge honor. And it was him and Keller Williams was the other artist. So yeah, it was crazy. It's not. I prefer kind of these smaller, intimate rooms, but I'll sneak into a Red Rocks every now and then and fuck it up, And so
yeah,
that was the energy is very high there, which is fun, and people are very excited. And I joke that I don't want my audience to be too excited. I like them to be pretty mellow, and which you're not going to get at Red Rocks. But it was beautiful. But right. You'll never get another view like that from any stage that I know of. Yeah, so it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Talking about joking, like, I mean, comedy is a part of your show, right? Like, so tell me about the dynamic of in terms of comedy and how that plays into your live performance.
Yeah, I think for me it's a way of connecting with the audience. The songs themselves are often not funny. I have a few humorous songs, but going to see a solo artist can be an awkward thing. When you go to a band, you can drink, dance, talk to your friends. But what I'm asking from my audience is, to sit there for almost 2 hours just listening like school. And I learned early on that if I could kind of disarm them a bit from that awkwardness, from that, for lack of a better word, boredom of watching somebody just play a few chords, it helped a lot for all of us to kind of feel a bit more relaxed. And it seemed that people took in the emotions better on every level. And I always, as a kid, I really liked that combo of, people like Richard Pryor and there are other comedians I felt.
George Carlin, you said.
Yeah, Carlin's, but comedians that would do that would be funny, but then there's a lot of, filmmakers, Wes Anderson, that also do that. That'll do something really funny and then bam, hit you with something serious, and it hits you harder because you're open. It's just a way of opening the crowd up. So that's something that I feel really special about, and I'm very lucky that I get to do that.
Yeah. Was Montana Tale your first solo album?
Yeah, that's the first official album. I had put out a few wrapped in newspaper, wrapped in paper bags, albums before that. But that's really when I feel like my career was getting started, and I was able to sort of take that level up of being a professional musician.
So tell me about this experience of putting that together. Was there, I mean, did you have an idea going into it of what you wanted? Did you have a good producer who was able to balance what you were looking for?
Yeah, I was the first time I went into like a real studio in Santa Cruz. I hired some great guys, specifically Zach Gill, who was in ALO, and Jack's keyboardist, who I think really gave the album some legitimacy. And yeah, I just really took that time. I thought about things in terms of songs. I really wanted it to be more concise. I think back then, before that, I was sort of putting out maybe what I would call like compilations, like, oh, here's 20 songs I wrote in the last year, see how many fit on a CD. And this time I thought, let's make an album, let's trim it down, let's edit, let's give someone something that that my heroes would have done and make them proud. And so that was I think also when I really kind of settled into that Americana sound, the genre, with organs and fiddles and banjos, but also roots rock. It was really nice.
Yeah. What inspirations did you dive into? Like what helped you kind of feel what sound you were going for with that album?
Yeah, I know, as cliche as it sounds, a lot of it comes from the beginnings of me like touring. So the Montana in the title references Montana, of course, but also just to me the non-California journey I was on, and Montana was a state I was going through a lot at the time. So I was pulling my lyrical influences from this new world I was in, where it was sleeping on couches and meeting baristas and hearing the stories of all these people that I'd never meet again, and then musically pulling on my standard influences, which would be a lot of 60s folk rock, Dylan, Donovan, Leonard Cohen, Tim Buckley, Simon and Garfunkel, all those guys, Joni Mitchell, Joan Baez, Peter Paul and Mary, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Birds.
Yeah. And so when you were in college, you were a math major, right?
Yes.
And so was there, and you were also had this band on the side that you were invested in. I mean, was there a piece of you that were like, hey, maybe this will work with the music, or were you going the practical route with like, okay, this is what I got to do to earn money and make a living with math?
Yeah, I think the music was always a dream, and it seemed very impossible to me. The way I had been raised and the community I had been raised in was very practical and not very dream chasey. And everyone I had known as a child was not that. They were sort of like, yeah, I'm gonna go to college, get a job, get married, have kids. And so I think I wanted to let myself believe that the music could be a possibility, but all signs pointed to not that. I wasn't very good back then. I had a lot of heart. I had a lot of enthusiasm and dedication, but I wasn't really turning any heads. So I assumed that at some point, some president of music or some guy would come in and be like, you got to get out of here. Like, sorry, bud, you had your time.
Here's the door. Yeah.
And I was just kind of waiting for that to happen. And so I was preparing also to sort of be a teacher there.
Yeah, and you were a teacher for a while, right? So
very briefly, yeah, I did teach in south of Santa Cruz and Watsonville.
Yeah, what was that experience like? Molding those younger minds.
Yeah, I mean, that's very nice of you to put it that way. It was not. It was not a great experience because I wasn't. Yeah. Well, my heart wasn't into it. I just had played enough music to where, and I was still playing music, of course, when I was teaching. So, to where I just realized I couldn't give up on it, and so that's why I didn't teach for very long, because I felt for those kids. I just wasn't really first of all, teaching is so hard and such a admirable career path, and it wasn't in me. It'd be like a surgeon who's just like, you'd be like, I don't really want to be here. You don't want that. You don't want that. You want your surgeon to want to be there.
Yeah. Was there someone that believed in you that kind of helped you? You say it helped you get to the point where you're like, okay, I can do this for a living. Was it that break with Jack Johnson,
You
or
know,
was there someone else?
it's before that. It was everyone at the shows, man. You know, I started driving around playing coffee shops, and there were just these people, regular people, that would come and say nice things to me and email me, when you coming back, and help me get gigs, sometimes put on shows for me, who must have seen something, you know, and they were so nice to me in those early days, you know, buying the merch and continuing to come to these weird spaces. And there was no buddy in the business or the upper levels. It was all just the fan base. And that's why they mean everything to me, you know, and I've always been a little um, rude to the to the business, to the suits, you know. Of course, you know, years later, things like Jack and Todd Snyder and you know, countless other musicians who helped me out, and then of course, then later you start getting the attention of some of these suits, and I dealt with that.
Yeah, yeah. You've put out a couple of cover albums, and
Yeah,
Leave the Fire Behind. I really like that. You know, that one is, especially as someone who grew up in the '90s. You know,
thank
I
you.
mean, it's like it's your take on the covers is it's great because you pay respect to the artist, but you totally make it your own as well. And yeah, and it's this original concept. It feels like tell me how you approach that album, and ultimately how you decided on the songs that you chose for it.
Yeah, that was another sort of uh, reaction to touring. I would oftentimes, in the early days, the shows themselves would be kind of weird. You know, you play a coffee shop, and maybe your four or five fans were there listening. The rest were kind of milling about. And really, the magic was kind of the after party. You know, somebody would host the campfire. During that, that was almost like show number two, and you would play more of your own songs, but then you'd eventually be playing these sing-alongs. And yeah, I was just sort of realizing these at that time sort of newer sing-alongs. I mean, obviously this was in the late 2000s, late 2008, 2009. But these 90s songs were really becoming legendary. And so it was hard to just choose 10. I could have chose 20, 30, but those were sort of the ones that sort of always hit. You get into No Rain or you know, What's Up or Under the Bridge, everyone knows it. You know, you get to that, I don't want to do like I did that day. You know, like everyone, doesn't matter what music they like, they knew it. As opposed to now, it's just different. You know, now if you sing a Taylor Swift song around a campfire, not everyone's gonna know it.
I won't know it. So
Yeah, yeah. Nothing against Taylor Swift, of course. I'm just
no,
saying.
no, it's
Yeah.
good. It's an example, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I feel it. So and so did you have the split decision like to make that next album next cover album, Paper Airplane? Like, I mean, what led to Paper Airplane, and do you have a big appreciation for Zeppelin?
Yeah, and you know, unfortunately, that was going to be the start of many cover albums like that. You know, taking an artist, and I just my career got away from me, and I was that's been put on hold for now 8 years or so. I had a whole Pink Floyd one in the can, but I think the Zeppelin thing came about, to be honest, pretty randomly. Looking back now, I think what happened was I had gotten like in an argument with somebody, which is a lot of my projects come out of that, where I think somebody was sort of saying something about, you know, Zeppelin had stolen all of these blues riffs and blues songs from people and made you know, sort of tried to make them better with the you know, rock and roll. And I must have said something about, you know, well, I wonder what it would sound like if you took some of their more original stuff and brought it into the acoustic realm. Also, I've been listening to a lot of stuff like Robert Johnson and John Mayall and like Howlin' Wolf. A lot of these like old acoustic. There's a band called Folk Singer by Muddy Waters that's also like this, where it's like these amazing blues artists who are playing really folky or acoustically at least. And so I think it was something to do with that, but that one just came, I think, again at the beginning of a chapter of what I was hoping to be a long book of picking these classic rock icons and playing again more campfire stuff that people would sing along at a campfire.
Yeah. Now you kind of breezed over it, but I think you said you had a whole album worth of Pink Floyd,
Yeah,
covers that you did. So
it's still in the can, and I hope someday it'll come out. These as it goes. I just started writing a lot more original music at that time, and there never was much of a an avenue for time for something. But I do have a Beatles cover album that's coming out in the spring. I don't know if I should be saying that, but that's just a hint, secret. April or so, I think there's a. I won't say much more, but the Beatles cover album coming out.
oh, I'm very excited for that. So
Thanks, man.
the thing that we didn't just talk about. So
Yes.
yeah. So before we get into Asterix the Universe, which obviously the newest album, I want to kind of sidestep and kind of talk about your giving back. Like you give back a lot to less fortunate, give a portion of your ticket sales to different groups. Tell me about how you choose the groups that you give back to, and where that kind of comes from, to that generosity, I guess it's so.
Yeah, that was again really inspired by my work with Jack Johnson. I always assumed that in order to be charitable, you had to be doing all right yourself, and then I think through Jack I realized that it's not necessarily that if your fan base is willing to join in with you on these movements, if you trust your fan base, then you can kind of make the show just more collaborative that way. And so having something like $1 of every ticket will go to this thing has been, and I commend my manager Phil too, who really helped me spearhead that. Picking the charities are tough because there's so many things. It's almost, charity is a funny thing. If you do nothing, then no one can criticize you. The moment you pick one, we had done homeless stuff the first tour, or houseless, I should say, which I felt very good about. But of course, there were some people who were mad about that. I eventually came upon food because that's something that I remember when I was just starting out and basically bank account at zero. Every gig, all the money had to go into gas, or food was something that was given to me by so many people out of generosity. And it's very important to me. And again, if, out of all the revolutions we're fighting, we don't get any fighting done if we don't get fed. So that's something that, and again, my manager Phil has helped me pick the appropriate food banks in each town and each state. So that's been really nice.
Yeah, and you're doing that on this current tour as well?
Correct. Yeah, starting in California, then we'll have one for Oregon, one for Washington, and then even one in Vancouver and BC when we get there.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. And let's talk about Jack Johnson just for a second as well. Like, what was that experience like with him? He reached out to you, right? And and kind of took you under his wing for a tour. What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, it was insane. I mean, he is a brilliant and kind man, and he reached out and wanted me to open these tours. And so I'm a guy who plays. Back then I was playing things like in San Francisco, Doc's Lab, which doesn't exist anymore, but that was like 100 cap room. I'm playing up in your hood. I'm playing the Hot Monks.
Mm-hmm.
Those are big shows for me. To sell out a 100-person room, that was a big deal for me. And in Portland, playing these rooms, 150 caps. Next thing I know, I'm with Jack. We're doing the Gorge. We're doing what is the Greek in Berkeley. We're doing these Fiddler's Green in Denver, which is about 18,000 or something. So it was overwhelming, but he was right there with me, and he was really great at kind of holding the space for me, and his crowd was really sweet. And again, kind of like Red Rocks, it's not the place that I belong, but I got to sneak in and do my thing. And my whole goal was, let me charm you guys, let me bring you into my world next time I come to town. And that's exactly what happened. And so because of Jack, I got to go from Doc's Lab to Freight and Salvage, from Freight and Salvage to the Fillmore, and so it's there's no way to uh, understate how or overstate how great of a experience and how grateful I am to him for that opportunity.
Sure. And you mentioned the Hot Monks. Casey Turner is a big support for you, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. He's given you house shows and obviously the Hot Monks and everything, and really been helpful with the Bay Area, right?
Oh, Casey's been my guy from day one. I mean, I knew him when he first moved here, and we were just buds talking music. And then I think our first house concert was at his house up in what's the one past San Rafael?
Santa Rosa?
No, it starts with
no,
V.
Santa. Wait, starts with the what?
I think it starts with a V, but I could be wrong.
Oh no, I should know my Bay Area.
Okay.
What am I? But,
anyway, there's a place just north of San Rafael that's really small, and he had like an apartment. We had a house show with maybe 12 people, and it was great, And then from there, we started doing other house concerts. He was doing all my Doc Slab shows. He did my Great American Music Hall show. Yeah, he walked with me every step of the way. We just did a bunch of shows last spring. So
Vallejo,
yes, that's the one.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's my neighbor. I don't know why I blanked on that. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so Asterisk the Universe. You put that out last year, which started with talking about how your 2 years has been, but you wrote that during the pandemic, and you went out to a cabin with with some friends here in Northern California, and just hunkered down. Tell me about the experience, like just hunkering down in a cabin. What was that process like for you?
Yeah, I had done it before with No Rain, No Rose. I had brought in my friends to a house. At that time, it was my house in Portland, and learned the joy and the freedom of having, and Bart Budwig, my good friend and engineer, bringing all the gear in. And that's the way I like to do things, because there's no time limit. Everyone just kind of, I don't like to start early. I like to go late. I don't want somebody saying, okay, it's 11 p.m. We got to, I want the thing to end when it's over, So that allowed me to do that. And also you get these experiences where Lorenzo from Honey Drops, I don't know if you know the California Honey Drops.
Yeah. I've interviewed him a couple of times.
Yeah. Great. The great Lorenzo, he's just in town. He calls me up. He says, what are you doing? I say, come by. Stuff like that was happening, where people drop in, and we make space for them. Plus the band that was there, Jamie Coffis from Coffis Brothers, Matt Goff and Ben Berry from Marty O'Reilly's band, Rainbow Girls, Nico from Shook Twins. It's just, it goes on, this group of people that were able to come out, and and then you go, hey, here's the song, A minor, G, D, what do you got? And that's really fun for me. And I think you get some pretty loose stuff, but it can be really cool, and I love it.
Yeah, was it pretty comfortable you recorded it during the pandemic though, right?
No, this was actually a little bit before. So
it was okay.
Yeah, we were clear.
So everything was okay, good.
Yeah, I did record a record last October that'll come out this spring, mid-pandemic, which was a bit tougher. But that one was just me and 3 other guys in a big empty theater, and we got tested beforehand, and we got just chilled out. That one was different, and not it. I think when people hear it, they'll feel that separation of lockdown. That Asterisk, to me, is a relic of a time before, when you can really feel in the room that sense of abandoned recklessness.
Yeah,
I miss that.
Did you have to do, for that new one, did you have to do a lot of preparation, like Zoom, chats about, getting ready for it and everything?
Yeah, definitely.
Was that a completely different process? Like you just, it required a different level of connection,
Yes.
for you?
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. Okay, so before we wrap, I want to ask you, I saw on your Instagram, you put up a post office box, PO Box 15132 in Portland, for fan mail. I'm interested in what's something interesting that you've received in your PO box.
Well, I'm very grateful for the people who send me stuff, especially during lockdown, especially in the darker months of it. I just get a lot of letters, which is very nice, but I've gotten a few care packages, things, really sweet things with tea and chocolates. I've gotten some pillows. Somebody sent me some like hand stitched pillows. I got this candle. Hold on, I can show you. This is something I cherish. This is a candle that someone made with my song lyrics on it, that I use. Trinkets. I get a lot of people share their music with me. So people send me records, they send me CDs, they send me books of poetry that they've published, which is really exciting. I've got some of those on my bookshelf, and a lot of knickknacks. This is another candle someone sent me, very like sexy, beautiful woman. That's very nice.
Hasn't been lit yet, I see. So
yeah, that one I'm afraid to light. It's too pretty. What else have people sent me? Yeah, I mean, you name it, it's been sent, and that means a lot to me. So if anyone's listening who's done that, thank you. I don't write back because I'm shy, but I don't think I got it.
Yeah. Have you had fans tattoo your lyrics on themselves? Is that like a really special connection for you?
It freaks me out, to be honest. I mean, I think it's so flattering. It's beyond flattering, and it's probably the coolest thing ever. But I also realize like tattoos make me nervous because I would never want anyone to regret. I know tattoos, although I know they don't usually have regret. That's there forever, so it makes
it's permanent.
Yeah, it's like, man, I really can't suck later on. I got to stay good because I don't want someone being like, "You have a John Craigie lyric? It's stupid. He sucks."
You can never quit, right? You're
never quit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it holds me to a good standard, and I'm always very proud. People choose really cool lyrics of mine. It's very flattering, and when they share it with me, I think it's really cool. So, yeah. Again, if anyone's listening who tattooed the lyric, thank you. It makes me nervous, but I love it.
Yeah. Let me ask you one more thing.
Yes.
You also on your Instagram, you went to you played at Sisters Folk Festival on Rogue River, and you posted a picture. I think the snake eating a fish.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Is that what I saw? Yeah, I've never seen that. It was
me either.
You just walk up on it and it was eating it, or?
Yeah, they had hired me to play this sort of like outdoors adventure, and it was 20 people going down the river with about 6 guides, and then I was the musician. So each night I would play at the campfire, and during the day we would just raft. And man, we saw bears, we saw eagles, we saw fish, we saw river otters. In that particular moment, we had stopped for lunch and looked at the shore, and yeah, there it was the craziest. And I'm assuming, I didn't see the initial bite, but I'm assuming that snake was in the water.
Had to have been in the water.
So badass. Yeah, very much the brutalness of nature. And we watched the fish, fight for a little bit, and then and that snake, stretching its mouth 2 times the size of its body, but that's what they do, I guess. And it's crazy. Yeah. Seemed uncomfortable to me. It seemed like I would have choked on that.
Yeah, a little bit, but I guess you get flexible, and a good meal for the snake for sure, right? So
yes.
I can't catch a fish with my hands, let alone I can't imagine being a snake and just having the connection to get there, and then to take it back to land, and finish it off, right? So yeah. Well, John, thank you for taking the time today. I appreciate it, and wish you luck, on the tour and headlining the Fillmore, which is coming up as well. The new albums, all the great stuff. It's great to hear. You're not slowing down, not stopping, and got a good streak ahead of you. So.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, you have a good night. Okay.
Yeah, you too. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, John. That was the interview with John Craigie here on Concert Pipeline, and that takes us to the final segment on the program, the music news. All right, this is actually a breaking story. It just happened, but there was a crowd at Travis Scott's Astroworld Festival in Houston, and they unexpectedly began pushing towards the stage, causing panic and chaos and leaving 8 people dead, including a 14-year-old, authorities said. There were a lot of unanswered questions, Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner said Saturday, the day after the tragedy. This was yesterday at the time of this recording. And over the next several days, several weeks, could even be longer, we'll take an in-depth look at everything that took place, why it took place, what steps we can do moving forward to mitigate an incident of this kind from taking place at any other point in time. So there were an estimated 50,000 people at the concert Friday night when trouble started brewing shortly after 9 p.m., according to Houston Fire Chief Samuel Pena. It wasn't immediately clear what prompted the crowd to start moving toward the stage while Scott was performing, but authorities said they would review drone and on-the-ground footage. Everybody's got camera phones, right? Everybody's got cameras. I'm sure there's a lot of footage on YouTube of this already. I haven't done a lot of research into it, but I'm sure there's footage, and I'm sure it's really, really sad. The crowd began to compress toward the front of the stage, and that caused some panic and injuries. People began to fall out and become unconscious, and that created additional panic. One question raised in the immediate aftermath was why the concert continued after Scott paused the show a couple of times to get help for attendees in distress. A harrowing video posted on social media showed two youths begging a cameraman to stop the show, but being shrugged off. A source close to the rapper told The Hollywood Reporter that he did stop the show once, and he was informed of the magnitude of the situation. As soon as he jumped out on the stage, it was like an energy took over and everything went haywire, concert goer Niara Goods told the Associated Press. All of a sudden, your ribs are being crushed. You have someone's arm in your neck. You're trying to breathe, but you can't. The ages of the victims ranged from 14 to 27. The one victim's age still hasn't been determined. Additionally, 25 people were transported to the hospital, with 13 still hospitalized, 5 of whom are under the age of 18. A lot of youngins in this group. And Scott said he was absolutely devastated by this. He said, my prayers go out to the family and all those impacted by what happened at Astroworld Festival. Houston PD has my total support as I continue to look into the tragic loss of life, he said. So Live Nation had put together the security plan, which included 528 Houston Police Department officers and another 755 people from private security. It's a lot of security, right? They should have been able to do something about this. Perhaps the plans were inadequate. Perhaps the plans were good, but they weren't followed. Perhaps it was something else entirely that happened here. The families of those who died and everybody affected deserve answers to what took place last night. And that's why I'm calling for an objective, independent investigation as to what went on and how it could have been prevented, or how, or if this was a particular situation that was simply out of everybody's hands. So two sources with knowledge of the investigation told THR on Saturday that police were looking into a drug spiking incident in an area of the festival where the chaos first began. The sources said it appeared to have been targeted at unknowing people, and that the crowd surge may have resulted from panic as attendees ran for safety. The Houston Police Chief Troy Finner said that they had heard rumors of people injecting people with drugs at the show, and confirmed that a security officer was pricked in the neck and passed out, but it was treated with Narcan and revived. This is now a criminal investigation that's going to involve our homicide division as well as narcotics. Okay, we hit a lot in that story. It was one of the, a lengthy one. We usually don't go that in depth in the stories, but I wanted to read it verbatim because there's a lot of depth to that story. So, I mean, there's not a lot to add at this point right now, other than, our thoughts are with the families of those that are affected by this, and hopefully they get the closure that they need. It's just super sad that something like that would happen. All right, the next story is about Bleachers. So Bleachers put out a live EP. They just dropped it surprisingly, and featuring guest appearance from Bruce Springsteen and St. Vincent. They also covered the Cars classic track Drive, and this is a Spotify Live at Electric Lady EP, which was released on November 5th. The session also features live renditions of tracks from their recent album, Take the Sadness Out of Saturday Night, along with guest appearances, like I said. Let's see here. So their cover of Drive at Electric Lady. You can listen to just a little preview of that. That's the CD. Doesn't have any of the lyrics in it apparently. So never mind then. Just have to assume that Drive is on there. I haven't actually listened to the EP as I don't have a full Spotify subscription. I'm an Apple Music subscriber. There it is. So I haven't been able to listen to the EP, but I'm a Bleachers fan, so I'd like to give it a shot, and I'll try and find it if I can. All right, Ozzy Osbourne. He has a star-studded 13th album, which we reported on in recent weeks, and that's going to land within 6 months, says Sony. He said he has 15 songs ready to go, and he is among a suite of artists that said to have new releases anticipated over the next 6 months, appearing alongside the like of Adele, Black Eyed Peas, Rick Ross, and Travis Scott, who we just talked about. The document is shared on October 28th, meaning if all goes according to plan, his new record will hit shelves by the end of next April. And his last full-length effort was Ordinary Man, which landed back in February of 2020, right before things went crazy. And he recently told Metal Hammer that album 13 would be similar in tone to that album, but conceded that he can't describe it completely. He said, I've not heard it for a while because it keeps going over to the next person to add their parts. We're fucking around with it all the time. And last December, his producer and guitarist Andrew Watts said he and his bandmates were about halfway through the recording the new album. And some of the guest features include Rob Trujillo from Metallica, Taylor Hawkins from Foo Fighters, and Chad Smith from the Red Hot Chili Peppers on drums, among others. And he said this work has kept him alive. So he said, this past 2 years, I've been in a terrible fucking state between the accident, a fall at home that left him seriously injured, and then the pandemic. It's kept me sane. I needed the music. So good on Ozzy to keep making music and bring in some awesome people along with him to be able to make the music. Okay, next story, Scarlett Johansson. Yes, that's Scarlett Johansson is in the music news. She has a cover with U2's Bono in a Sing 2 trailer. This trailer has been put out into the world, and it's she will reprise her role as Ash the Porcupine from the 2017 original animated film, alongside Matthew McConaughey's Buster and Reese Witherspoon as Rosita the Pig. Joining the singing animals this time around is Bono, who plays rock star lion named Clay Calloway. Bono is acting in the movie, apparently. And so Johansson is singing "I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For" before Bono's vocals swoop in during the closing seconds. U2 have even contributed an original song for the animated sequel titled "Your Song Saved My Life." We're seeing tie-ins here between the stories in music news, which will feature on the official soundtrack. There's going to be a lot of covers from the cast, including versions of Prince's "Let's Go Crazy," The Weeknd's "Can't Feel My Face," Coldplay's "A Sky Full of Stars," and fellow U2 classic "Where the Streets Have No Name." So it sounds like there's a lot of U2 built into this soundtrack. And some other songs as well. So check that out if you're a fan of animated movies like that, or just want to hear some of those classics. All right. Last story in the music news, of course, is about Mr. Dave Grohl. Dave Grohl says he thinks the dial is starting to turn back to guitar music. There's so many fucking great bands out there that hopefully will start getting more attention. He made these comments during a new interview with Rolling Stone, in which he was asked about his band's status as the go-to rock band on the planet. It's been that way for a really long time, but I love being a rock and roll band in a rocker. He said, we're not the only one. There's so many fucking great bands out there. And he said the dial is starting to turn back to guitar-based music, and to me, it's really exciting. He also said that watching young drummer and musician Andy Bushell play music is the true meaning of rock and roll. Of course, those two took part in a virtual drum battle in November, setting one another music challenges online, and played together during a recent show at the Forum in Los Angeles. So if you want to see a true badass, check out Nandy Bushell. All right, that is our show for today. Thank you for tuning in. I believe next week on the program we have the Yardbirds. That's right. I'm going to have Jim McCarty, from the drummer from the Yardbirds, on the program. He has a new memoir, autobiography of sorts. It's not a full autobiography, but it's an interesting story. I've been reading it, out called, let me see, I think, well, his original was Nobody Told Me, and I don't have the name of his most recent offhand, but I believe he's going to be on the program next week. So that is our show for today. Thank you for tuning in. For all of us here at Concert Pipeline, I'm Steve Jones. We'll catch you next time.